Welcome to this week's Cattle Call. I'm Susan Littlefield. We are broadcasting from Commodity Classic, which is underway in New Orleans. I'm in the media room right now. Lots of things to look at in this market trade, and I think a market trade that on a Wednesday may have made a few people a little sick to their stomach with the craziness that went underway. Underwhelmed by fund selling. Commitment of traders report of last week. What does all that mean this week? We're going to look at the roll, the disappointment, and the cash. And one producer that's wondering the feeder's reaction to the grains. But then Brad, as you can see joining me on the screen, brought up an important point about turning the TV off and looking at the main market players. What does that all mean within this trade? So Brad Kooima does join me. He's with Kooima and Varlick out of Sioux Center, Iowa. So let's kind of start out right now. Overwhelmed by fund selling. What do you mean by that?
Well, unfortunately, that's the reality of our cattle market anymore, Susan. You're getting a smaller market, and when the funds get a big position and decide they all, I liken it to, you're a 4-H girl. It's like, I always liken it to chasing hogs, right? I mean, they all want to go through this one small little doorway opening. At least that's what it used to work for me when I raised hogs. And they're all trying to pile out at the same time, right? And there's some, I think, accuracy in that analogy. We've been talking about the liquidation for a couple of weeks here already. I think we had pretty good size open interest. We had a nice rally on the cattle, so that attracts the fund manager, and we need him. We need a long speculator, unlike some people that seem to want to make every rule in favor of the hedger. Hey, I get it. I love the producer, but you can't make all the rules for a hedger. You also got to make rules that are also attractive to someone that wants to be a long speculator. Who else is going to make the market go up after all? So that's been a problem. You mentioned in the little preview there this commitment of traders, and I think that's a worthwhile point to just spend a moment on, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Those commitment of traders reports come out on Friday. The data is weekly data as of the previous Tuesday, and last Friday we saw that we had the second largest drop in the long fund position that we had in the history of this report. The largest was the week ending December 23 of 2014. If you remember 2014, I'll never forget it. It's the bull market of our career, right? That's the year we went to 175. And we were on the tail end of that big rally, and the funds started to come out of their long position there. Anyway, the only reason I bring it up is because the massive, like yesterday alone, down 13,000 in the open interest in the April cattle, 8,000 the day before that, 8,800 the day before that. So even since then, we've had a tremendous pugitation of people getting out of their positions. So, my thinking is, if you're going to have rotten price action, let's at least have a reason for it. Well, obviously the reason is all this fund selling, right? So anyway, today was a down day. The 2 days before that were big up days. We'd gotten off our lows by almost $6.50. So, to be $1.50 lower, yeah, I didn't like it, but I guess one shouldn't be terribly surprised, particularly with what the way this cash has performed this week, which is a dog, right?
Well, you talk about that and the disappointment that we're seeing within the cash market. I mean, we've had some good weeks. We've got to expect some bad weeks once in a while.
Well, yeah, and of course I get it. People say to me that futures and cash aren't connected. I'm going, are you nuts? I mean, clearly, the futures market drugged this cash market down. You've got some folks that are basis traders that are hedgers, right? So they're going to be more prone to sell it if they can sell cash, where the futures are, so they can come off their hedge. Or for a while there, you could sell cash above where the futures were, so they're even more incentive to do that. But I get all that. But most of it, I think, is the crushing of the psychology that the futures do. And on top of that, you've got some feedlot managers here that, if they haven't gotten taken care of their feed cost, obviously they are also incentivized to get this stuff sold that's fat because of the cost of gain. And especially in the South, I think that's more of a deal. Up here we're paying $7.40, $7.50 in the bunk. I would bet they're paying 75 cents or more than that down in Texas and Kansas. So it was kind of a deadly combination, I guess. The other part of that question is, though, is the raw part of the fundamental. For 2 months we talked about, well, how many cattle are we going to get dead, and absenteeism at the packing houses, right? We've killed 125,000 3 days in a row. That's huge. So there is demand is good enough. The packers have great margins. They want to kill, and they are. We just got to get through this mud hole in the road, which is Russia, Ukraine, right? And I don't know. There was some indications, I thought, today that some of the outside market stuff was encouraged by whatever the news is, because this is above my pay grade, but there was some things that would give you some encouragement, I thought, today.
Well, I like that before we started this program, you were talking about just shutting off the TV, but looking at the specific fundamentals that have been happening within the trade. You and I don't talk wheat very often at all.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, but you look at what's happening in this wheat complex. You look what's happening, in the rest of the grain complex with the crude oil, the president's announcement about not taking oil out of Russia. There's some factors that are really digging into this pot, and it's affecting the cattle market.
Without a doubt. And I don't mean to make fun of anybody that raises wheat, of course. It's just that I'm an idiot when it comes to toward that. That's what I'm trying to say there. Northwest Iowa, we're more of a row crop, corn and bean guy, right? Anyway.
Exactly.
But to your point, obviously we can't shut the TV off. This is a horrible thing that's going on there, and pray for peace. What I thought was interesting, especially today, some of the markets that have been impacted the most is the wheat market, for instance. Of course, Ukraine, the breadbasket of that area, an area that not only raises a lot of wheat, but it's also the export point for a lot of wheat. And so, the news there triggered a move to levels that we had never been before on the wheat. Okay, now today, wheat is down the limit. Interesting. Other thing that really has been impacted here lately, of course, is energy cost. And like you highlighted, now today we look over at the crude oil pit, and let's give you a last year. I think we're down about $16, not quite 15 something, $15 a barrel. Holy moly, right? And our stock market is screaming higher today. So we do have some stuff that are a little more hopeful, I would say. Yeah, we could use a little of that right now, right? But it didn't obviously translate to any help on the cattle today.
Definitely. All right. Real quick, what are your thoughts as we head into the rest of the week? What do we need to watch as a cattle producer?
Let's see if we can't stabilize the cash market. I think 138 will hold it. I think the boxes are about done going down too. So if we continue to kill big, cash gets some support. If we could just get a little relief in this fretting about the outside news, I really think this thing's close. This is the third day of the roll today. I'd like to see April gain on the back ones tomorrow. Will be the first thing I'd look at, whether April cattle are the strongest tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks so much, Brad. We'll talk to you next week.
You bet. Sounds good.
Just a reminder, folks, commodity futures and options do involve a substantial risk of loss and aren't suitable to all investors. And that's been this week's Cattle Call from New Orleans and Commodity Classic. I'm Susan Littlefield on the Rural Radio Network.